In this episode of Monster Lab, we're going to show you how to cutting, painting, and then actually hairing and creating the costume so that you can turn yourself into an instant zombie. We're going to fill this with latex and let it set. We're going to fill it up to the top and just let it set. And as it sets, the plaster, which is porous, will suck the moisture out of that latex and it'll build up a thickness of latex. So when we dump this out, depending on how long we let the latex set in there, it'll be thicker or thinner. So it's really a great process, very much like slip in pottery. So here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to take some good mask-making latex and I'm going to just pick a spot to fill it and just kind of slow. It's not really critical. If you had crazy undercuts or something, you could brush it around if you felt like you had to, but normally you don't need to. And so now here's one of the things I think are a little confusing for people. When I started the business, I would like pour it in, dump it out, pour it in. That's how I built up my thickness. It was really, I didn't understand how it worked. But if you just let this set, and we're gonna let it set for maybe 15 minutes, and then dump out the excess, and we'll have a thickness that's enough for a face mask, but that varies. If you want a little thicker, let it sit 30 minutes. Let it sit an hour if you want it real thick. But just let it sit and it'll absorb the moisture in the latex that's sitting against the plaster. So we'll be right back. Okay, so the latex is set in the mold and built up that thickness, and so I'm gonna dump the excess latex back in, because it's all good latex. And you can set it like on the bucket for, oh, I don't know, 10 minutes should be plenty. And then you after the latex has had a chance to drain down, then you'll just want to take it off and set it on the table. I'm going to just show you though how it looks in here. So it's just, there's just a skin of latex inside this mold that's fairly thin. You know, it's maybe a 1/16 of an inch or something like that, but it will cure. You just after it's drained completely, just set it and it will cure completely. And overnight, or if you put a fan on it, you could probably pull it in a few hours or something like that. But it's a very natural, easy process. And that is all there is to it. Okay, so I poured the first mask, which this one is going to be just a face mask, so it's a little thinner. So this one I left in the mold for about 45 minutes. So it's a fairly thick piece, and you just drain it like 10 minutes or something, make sure it's done, flip it over. You can, like this one I just set on its side and blew a fan in it. But you just put a fan on it. You can use a hairdryer, but I caution you with this. I had the hairdryer way away from it, and I had the fan behind it. A lot of people think, oh, well, if a hairdryer helps, then a real hot hairdryer real close will help. No, you'll just melt the latex. So you can use a little bit of heat, but very cautiously. You don't want to burn your latex. It's not cooking, it's simply drying. So, you know, warm air dries faster than cool air. So anyway, we're going to pull this out. Before you pull it out, you want to put some talc. I would use unscented, or just some of the plaster that you use to make the mold, and it works just fine. Blow it out. All right, so you just grab an edge anywhere you want and pull. And you know, if it's fairly fresh, now this actually had a fan and a hairdryer on for a few hours and it's fine, but it's not brutally strong like it would be if you had a fan on it overnight. But that is your little monster. And we're gonna turn him in to a whole full body zombie. And so now it's time to head upstairs to paint. Now this mask, if you want to watch the episode, we showed you how to make it fit your face exactly. And this is designed to kind of hide the lines of the sculpture and where it's cut and things so that it blends in immediately. And so we're going to cut these. And then it's better to cut the nose and the mouth from the inside. It's kind of this highest point is where the curve is the biggest. And you know, when you put it on, then you can judge. And I would figure this out before you paint it. Make sure that it's fitting and not poking or uncomfortable anywhere. Make that trimming before you paint it, because it's just easier and be more aggressive. Okay, so these two are ready to be based. I'm going to base these with a mixture that is covered in, I believe it's Monster Lab 1, but it's 1 part latex, mask making latex, 1 part indoor house paint, and then 1 part or a little less water. So now I'm going to base them with a flesh colored base and then highlight them with white. And you know, they could be a different color. The reason I'm choosing flesh is because I'm going to put this on. I don't want to have to wear gloves. I don't want to have to do eye makeup. I want it to just be an instant disguise. So the base starts by going up and then coming down. It's very easy. Now you can also do this with the airbrush. You know, if it's a small project like this, we just always use quartz sprayers for basing. So now I'm going to spray on a little, kind of an off-white, and this just makes him a little pale and sickly. The other thing is, when you do a highlight, you really need to crank it so you're at a 90-degree angle, because if you do this, you're just erasing the flesh, you know. So we'll leave those dry for about an hour with a fan on them, and we'll be right back. All right, so the base coat is dry, and we're going to spray it with rubbing alcohol mixed with FW inks. Now there's other inks, I'm sure they work. FW is kind of like, seems like one of the best. And to make this, I'm going to give you the formula for what I do, and then you can kind of extrapolate depending on how much you want to mix. But this is 70%, that's important, 70% rubbing alcohol. You can get it anywhere. And for this color, I mix 4 bottles. Now these are the small size bottles. 4 bottles of antler brown, 3.5 bottles of flame red, and then 2.5 bottles of black. And that gives you a nice, rich red brown, and that's enough rub out ink to do probably hundreds of masks, depending on how heavy you put it on. But you can cut it down if you just want to do 1 bottle or whatever it is. So I'm going to do just like I did with the base, spray up, spray down, try to get it in all the cracks, and I'm going to shut the flow down a little bit. Now this can easily be put on by an airbrush. This is water consistency. So that kind of gives an overall darkness, and then I like to come in and shut it down even further and just go in and tighten up some of the predominant features. Darken those up. So this dries pretty fast, and so you can get right on it with the rub out. And the rub out is just pure 70% rubbing alcohol. And get a sponge. Now this is actually a solvent resistant sponge. They work great, but any sponge really work, fairly soft sponge. And then you just lightly, you're not cleaning it off. This isn't wax on, wax off. This is just a light touch so that it takes off the rubbing alcohol on the top and leaves it in the cracks. And it's really, really fast and really good. We do most of our stuff this way nowadays. And if you don't have an airbrush, it doesn't matter. You just take paintbrushes, use that same formula, 1/3 painting latex, mask making latex, 1/3 indoor house paint. That's kind of important because the outdoor stuff has extra chemicals to fight the sun. And then 1/3 water or a little less, depending on the thickness. Now, if you're brushing it on, you might want to just leave it without water. You just have to see, but that rubber will make it so that you can stretch these things. Get it all out. And you know, one thing I try to do every step is just kind of look at it, make sure, did I get it all? You know, so stand back and say, oh no, I didn't get this. Just kind of, you know, hit it everywhere. Another little trick I do is to model it a little bit, even before stippling, is just to take, after you've rubbed it off. Now, if it's too dirty, if the sponge is too dirty, this doesn't work. But if it's not, you can just spread a little of that brown rub out. Now this is brown. Sometimes I'll use maroon. It just depends on how rotten the character is supposed to be and so forth. But that is all there is to it. And it gives you this great look almost instantly. The next step is to put some translucent paint on. And we make this with FW inks. And then we mix, maybe, I think I'll go red first. Half and half. So half FW ink, half 70% rubbing alcohol. That way it's not so nuclear. And also the rubbing alcohol, as you spray, is almost like you're a cleaner. You know, it helps keep it clean. So I'm just going to go in, hit the lips, maybe a little bit here, and then open it up. Just break it up a little bit and get a look here. This is subtle stuff. You just hit it fast and now another thing I like to do is speckle. I'm going to go ahead and hit a speckle before I go to blue. There's 4 primary colors I use for speckling flesh. Now this is not necessarily, it will look fine without this. This just adds that little bit of realism, and I put it in spray bottles. You can take like a chip brush, cut it in half, and just dip it in the solution and splatter it. And this is like, I would say you're looking at maybe 10 dropperfuls of the small bottles, FW, 10 of those for one of these. Now it varies depending on what it is, and if you can see it, it just gives you some spotting. And because skin is not one color, and poster paint is one color. Skin is, man, there's all sorts of colors in skin, very subtle, but this just helps with the realism. I'm going to add a little blue. This is blue translucent again, half FW, and I think this is called Roundy Blue, and it's half blue, half rubbing alcohol, 70%. Now there's a little trick. Let's say something horrible happened and you're like, you're painting and somebody goes, phone call, and you go, oh, I messed it up. Well, not really. The great thing about working with rubbing alcohol is you can go back in here and just make that all go away. Now, it doesn't mean the mask is fragile, because you would have to destroy it with rubbing alcohol. But there's a trick to that too, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'll tell you about it now. We'll spray it on last. It's Krylon flat, like a fixative spray that they spray on paintings and things. It's in a spray can, and you just spray that on after you're all done, except for gloss. And you spray that on, and then that's locked under there. When you like the look of it, the other thing that helps with is if you're sweating and stuff, it helps protect the paint, and even protects it from the elements somewhat. So I'm going to spray a little more brown on there because I made my speckles go away. Alrighty. Then, let's see, did I get blue? No, I only got blue on one of them. So I'm going to get the blue on this guy. And a lot of this stuff is pretty subtle, but all together it starts to look alive. Another color we use a lot is this reddish color, and this is accomplished, I think it's 1 quart rubbing alcohol, and then I think it's 8 dropperfuls of red FW, and then 1 black, and that gives you a little bit of a kind of a liver color. And all this stuff can be adjusted to your taste. And again, this part, the speckling part, don't feel like you need to do that, because it's a lot of extra work, and really it's going to look very, very good without it. It's just that sometimes, we go in for that little touch of reality. Also, you should let them dry a little bit between each coat, because they just start to run and blend together, and instead of getting that mottled look. This is blue. Again, probably something like 8 drops per, but nothing else, just blue per quart of rubbing alcohol. Now this one really models them nice. This is FW white, and I think this is something like 20 think it's 22 dropperfuls of white, and then 1.5 of the brilliant yellow. And that'll give you kind of a nice yellowy white. Now what I was doing there, I was spraying, because sometimes the white builds up at the bottom, the pigment and titanium, and so it's heavier and builds up at the bottom. You start spraying it, it's like nuclear white. You don't want that, but you can test these things a little too, make sure they're looking good. Okay, so now I'm going to let that dry just a bit, and I'm going to spray the Krylon matte clear, and that will protect our work, and then we'll get a little gloss on the lips, and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the Krylon matte finish. They also have a matte UV finish, but it's clear, and it's used for artist stuff. It's very good stuff. And one thing, sometimes I'll notice people just give it a couple shakes, they start, no. I would shake it pretty good for 30 seconds to a minute and then roll it. And maybe do that back and forth. Make sure you really got it mixed up. All right, so now these are protected and they are done. The last thing is to just put some gloss on the lips, and I like this Liquitex, and this is called Gloss Medium and Varnish. Liquitex Professional. Works great. It's got a little bit of elasticity to it, and it's not as shiny as epoxy, which you don't want. You know, when you're doing eyes, you want epoxy because they're actually wet. They're like with water. This is just a little bit of moisture around your lips just to give it a feel. And sometimes you might want to put a little in the nose because, you know, he's a zombie. All right, so when we come back, I'm going to show you how to hair these to hide your seam lines. And this is something that works probably better for guys because of the beards, but like if you were a wolf creature, this is not just only zombies. This could apply for any kind of a mask. But anytime you can hide seam lines and things with hair, you don't have to though, because I've exaggerated this nasolabial fold, and I'll show you how we're gonna make this thing so it can talk and even be eliminated. Take your pick, but the hair can be added to help hide those seams. So we'll go into that in just a minute, and we'll see you then. Okay, next we're gonna put on hair. Now, this guy, because we have these extended nasolabial folds, I'm gonna cut the mask there and around here so it'll grab my chin, and then I'm gonna attach it with elastic bands so that this becomes separate from the mask, and I'll hook it to my ears with elastic, and that way he can talk. However, with this same technique, you could just cut the jaw away and cut down here and just slip it on with Velcro. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then just your mouth is totally free to talk. It fits your face and you just talk and you're fine. You could put the mustache on. That's all depends on what you want to do. This one I'm going to leave big, and I'm also going to cut this down and so that it's just a face mask. This one I'm going to leave the whole half mask, and I'm going to give him a full beard, eyebrows, hair, so that you just slip this on, attach the Velcro, and you know you've instantly got a hairdo. Now, in case you wanted to like talk without this, I'm going to try to match the hair to my beard so that I could just have this, you know, because if like you're drinking and stuff, a mask can get pretty irritating. So you can go to, these come from like beauty supply places. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm like a sophisticated salt and pepper. And what I discovered when I looked in the mirror is I'm more of a Santa Claus kind of look.
Why, they can go so fast we can fly through the air.
So I got this, but I'm not quite there yet. So I'm going to try to blend these a little, try to make it look a little bit like me, but you can do the same thing. You can go, they've got browns and blacks and every color you can imagine. And the stuff's fairly inexpensive. So I'm going to start laying it on. Now I'm going to go a little long, and then when the silicone's dry, I'm going to start trimming. Now that's the next thing I want to talk about, silicone. This is 100% pure silicone, and it's clear. That's very important. 100% clear, 100% silicone, clear. And you can buy it in smaller tubes and things. You don't have to get in a big thing like this. But that you need to do. And then you just put it on. I'll start with this guy. We'll get him out of the way. You just put a bead on. And I'm going to go down here a little to make sure that hair stays where it's supposed to. Okay, so I'm going to start with a white, unfortunately. I used to be a young monster maker and all that stuff, and just as the years have gone on, I started to look more and more like my monsters. Okay, so I think I'll start with white, and I'll kind of do the blending on the mask, and I'm going to go longer than I need to, just because it's easy to trim and hard to add. So you lay this in, and I've cut it at a little bit of an angle, and I'm going to push it right into that silicone. And you got to push pretty hard and work it toward the edge. Now I've got this silicone running down the side, so I'm going to want to push it into that. And this is just a paint stirring stick, you know, you get when you buy paint. Comes in very handy. Do the other side. And I'm not putting on tons of hair. You know, obviously you want to put on enough, but you don't want to get it so thick that you're not getting it stuck down, and then you kind of don't know what you've got. Some will fall off, certainly, when you're brushing it and things. Now, here's another thing for your consideration. There's many different ways to glue this on. There's Mod Podge you can get in a craft store. There's latex itself. You can get thick latex and stick it on with latex. The reason I like the silicone is because it's so thick and sticky that you can move the thing around, and it will stay good enough until it's dry. And when it's dry, it's on there like a rock. I mean, that's rock. I don't know if that's it, but it's on there really, really tough, and it will stay. And you can comb it, and you can take a lot of abuse. Silicone is pretty darn good. But again, there's many different ways to do it. Now, I want to give him some little eyebrows. Not a lot of silicone on there, just enough to do the job. Now these I don't want to get too long, because they've got to kind of stick up. And you know, get your hand behind it and really make sure that that's stuck in, and kind of style it a little bit while you're there, because you can angle where you want the eyebrows to go while the silicone's wet, and it will. I wonder if I want those down. He seems a little sad, but that's all right. He's not doing too well. And this, the other good thing about this, it's called braid. This stuff's called jumbo braid. There's different brands and things, but what's nice about it is it's light, and it looks pretty real. And so you can stick it in. It grabs the glue. You know, you could do this with just you could cut up an old wig and use that hair. It's not going to be quite as easy to deal with. Another thought, and this is like if you're getting a major haircut, you might want to save the hair and put it on here, because then it'll match for at least 5 years. That gold ain't gonna mine itself. All right, so now I'm gonna come back with a little bit of this gray and try to simulate where I'm at in the scheme of things. It's not too bad. Now you could blend this before you put it on, and that's fine too. And another thing to do, if you got too much, if you put it on this way, where it's kind of over, and you got too much, then you can kind of lift and thin the color on top. I'm going to put just a teeny bit in the eyebrows. All right, so we'll leave him sit and wait for his haircut. This guy, we're going to do very similar, except he's going to get a full hairdo. Now, I like to do the low stuff first because the high stuff gets in your way. So we're going to start putting on the hair. Let's see now. How much of a beard do we want on this guy? Well, I'll just make it a little extra long and we'll figure that out as we go. And you kind of layer this on. So you're not counting on just one single row. And also you want to kind of glue it on the direction the hair grows. Trying to spread it out a little so that it can all hit the glue. And a towel is good to periodically clean up your stick. Okay, so the hair is all on, but it's still a little wet. I'm gonna put a fan on it to dry it out so we can style it a little bit. The funny thing is, as I was going along, it's like, okay, I wanted to blend with my beard and stuff, and then I thought, well, I should make the hair go back so that it blends in with my hair. And then as I got toward the end, I realized I had just haired myself. I mean, this looks like me, give or take 20 years. Isn't that weird? Anyway, we'll be right back. Okay, it's time for haircuts. Now for this, you're just gonna need a brush like this with kind of soft, spread apart bristles. And don't go too crazy, but just kind of comb it. Sometimes stuff will pull out. I mean, some's gonna pull out no matter what, but I mean, sometimes you get a big chunk come out and you won't like that, and you can put it back in, but the idea is to get all the excess off right now before you start trimming. And I am penetrating through the layers here. Okay, so we're going to first get the shape we want of the beard. And try to get it fairly level. Now, since you don't have as much hair as you'd have like on a person, you just kind of pick up little pieces and cut them at an angle up. And then when they go down, they're kind of not all the same length. So you just go around it, do that, and you can play with this quite a while till you get what you want. And then the next thing is to come up here and just, it's like you're cutting in the same direction of the hair, which is kind of weird, but it actually gives it that tapered, grown out look. Now the eyebrows I'm gonna leave a little long on the ends. You know, the hair, it really makes a difference. Like this could be a wizard. You know, if you had real long eyebrows and a real long beard and. Now the idea of this back here is to blend into my hair. Now, if you wanted to be some kind of creature with blue hair or something like this, well, then you just make this real long so it covered your hair completely. But I was trying to go for light and comfortable and just kind of an instant disguise so that I didn't have to put on makeup and go through a whole bunch of hoopla. I could just, you know, slip it on quick. Okay, so that's that. This guy, we'll give him a quick eyebrow trim. That is that. Now, let me just show you one more thing before we take these down that I find very helpful. Take that same flat Krylon. You can use gloss Krylon too if you really need stronger hold. The gloss works a little better. But just spray it down, and then you can kind of style it a little bit. Now, then once you get it pretty much where you want it, give it another coat. Okay, so this guy, I want to have like just a face mask. Now I'm gonna guess, but when you do this, I would put it on your face and in front of a mirror and fold it down and find out exactly where your hairline is. And that's gonna give you, and then you can kind of comb your hair over the edges and hide that seam a little bit. So I'm gonna get a rough idea. I guess it's right about there. Like I say, this is some wild guessing here. You should take time and try to get this right. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is cut those nasolabial folds and then the goal is to remove this completely. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see what this looks like. The idea here was to kind of hide that nasolabial fold, and I'm not going to have complete success because I've got more of my beard, but the idea is that you could go to a party like this and just talk and eat and drink and so forth. Now, inside this mask, I'm going to put tabs. This stuff, now just so you notice, this sticks very well to the rubber though, so you may not need it. But for extra strength, you just put the contact cement on it. You have to let it dry totally and completely, and then you stick this on. If you put it on wet, you're actually doing more harm than good. So you put these right around your eyes, and then get the opposite Velcro, the fuzzy, and stick a piece on here, and then you'll need to put a piece on here, and then leave a little bit like that. This is the prickly Velcro that I've stuck on the mask. This is the fuzzy Velcro that I've stuck on the prickly Velcro. And then you get some prickly Velcro. Oh, also, I didn't mention this. This is Velcro that has an adhesive backing. And you can get these at fabric shops, Home Depot, but you need that to stick to the mask. This stuff has nothing. And again, fabric stores, anywhere like that. So you put this fuzzy, and or I should say this prickly stuff, on the fuzzy, and then over here, and give yourself some latitude. Because, after you make this mask, you're going to be so proud, your head will be big, you'll have to expand the Velcro.
Great. So now you've got the big head.
Look who's talking. All right. So you put this on, and then do this. And then, now, see how that fits around my eyes just right? And my lip fits right in there? So you can talk and things, but this is more like if you didn't have a beard, what this mustache hides that separation between the mask and you. And so that's how that works. So let's get the other one. It's a little different vibe. We are going to do the same thing with the sticky back Velcro. I'm going to just cut a couple pieces here. And when you stick them, make sure that you really push down and make a bond with the latex. And it's a really good bond. This stuff's got some super adhesive. Okay. So see where I placed that right by the eyes? That's where you want it. And same trick, take your fuzzy Velcro and hook it on, leave a little slack, take a shorter piece, hook that on, and then hook your prickly Velcro onto that. And that way these two can line up as need be. I've got way more Velcro than I need. But again, you're better to put too much on and trim a little off than not have enough and have to waste a whole nother piece. So that's what you end up with to lock it onto your head. Same deal, we're going to cut the nasolabial folds. Here's what I want. This is just elastic, black elastic you can get at a fabric store. And the idea is to wrap it around your ear and connect to this jaw piece. And so I'm gonna guess that's about the right length. We'll see. I'm sure I'll probably have to make some adjustments. Now I would put the smooth side of the staple up on the inside of the mask. Let's see how that's going to fit. You know, this is actually the first time I've ever done this. I'm serious. But in my mind, it works perfectly. Okay. Now, I more than likely have to do some adjustments, but all right. So, let's see, what else do I have to do? I think that's it. Okay, so I put this on for now, but before I put that on, this was kind of designed to match my hair so that if I didn't want to go that far, I could go like this. Now, I have no idea if that looks good or not, but you know, I can eat and drink and talk and hopefully it's a fairly good match. Is it fairly good, Adam? Tom, is this good?
Looks good to me.
It is, but the hair is just so wild.
Pooping a little.
Okay, so this is one way to wear the mask so that it kind of blends in with you. Now, I wish I had a mirror, but if you did, you could, you know, change things and add a little more of a different color or whatever you need to. But then for the ultimate look, you put on this bad boy. That's the gag. How do I look? Brains. 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 So, here you go. So this is it. Now in the next installment, we're going to show you how to make the whole costume. So you just slip in and you're instantly that monster. Back in the day, when Don Post started, the original mask company, their first mask line, I think, was called Pocket Disguise. And so you could just cram it in your pocket, you could pull it out and slip it on. This is a little more sophisticated and it's customized to you, but this is like instant. You just slip this on, first put on your clothes, and they're all distressed and gnarly, and you slip on this mask, and you are that character, whatever character you wanted to be. It could be any kind of crazy character, but it's fast. You don't have to sit in front of the mirror and like be working. All your work's done ahead of time. So anytime you want to be that monster, boom, you're it. So that's it for this Monster Lab. We'll see you in the next.